Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Carmine Sabia for Explain America, and Alvin Bragg's nightmare just happened. Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those little things really help us out, and they help our channel continue to grow. Michael Cohen testified yesterday for Alvin Bragg and the prosecution against Donald Trump in the alleged hush money case involving Stormy Daniels. And with each passing witness, Alvin Bragg's case actually gets weaker and weaker. And it's falling apart. It's falling apart right before his eyes to a point where he may actually get to a point where he has to drop the charges just to save face. That's how brutal this has gotten for him. That's how devastating each witness has gotten for him. Absolutely tragic for Alvin Bragg. And gosh, I feel so sad for him because he's such a nice fella, isn't he? You know, he's not a guy that would manipulate and use lawfare, would he? Alvin Bragg, you got everything that's coming to you. Let's listen to this legal expert take down this case in record time and let me know what you think. As always, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm Carmine Sabia for Explain America. We love you guys. God bless you. Take care, everybody.
Let's discuss with our panel here. We have with us former Trump Payroll Corporation attorney Bill Brennan, CNN legal analyst Carrie Cordero, who worked at the U.S. Justice Department, and Michael Van Der Veen, who defended Trump during the second impeachment trial. First of all, Michael and Bill, just so you know, the Phillies just beat the Mets again. The game just ended 4-0, just FYI. Got a few Philly boys in the house here. Got to clear it. Take care of business. Sorry, I assume you're a Mets fan. Not from New York. Well, Jersey. Anyway, let's start with the very first exchange, because after introducing himself to Michael Cohen, the very first question that Todd Blanche asked Cohen was, quote, "You went on TikTok and called me a crying little shit." That was just before the trial began. Cohen nodded and says, "Sounds like something I would say." The prosecution objected. The judge struck the question from the record. But obviously, Michael, let me start with you. The jury remembers it, whether or not it's stricken from the record.
Sure, and the reporting that I had was his first question actually was, "You and I have never spoken before."
That's right. That's right.
So he was setting that up to then go after the TikTok. You know, it's hard to sit here and second quarterback what Blanche did, but you know, Adam Leisure, a young lawyer in my stable, thought the first question should be, do you consider yourself an honest man? Because no matter what the answer is there, it's a bad answer and sets up the cross. It looks like Blanche is very strategic in what he's going to do here. And I think he's going to be making Cohen bob and weave, and then come at him with the big ones. What's interesting is I think at the end of what Hoffinger did in the direct examination really streamlined and helped the defense, because she tried to take the wind out of the sails for all of his credibility problems, but really what she did is she put all of that in context. So now Blanche doesn't have to go build his own context. It's already been done, and he can get real direct on the cross. I think he's going to be in a good spot.
So Todd Blanche asked Cohen about his podcasts where he speaks about Donald Trump. Blanche asked, "Have you regularly commented on your podcast that you want President Trump to be convicted in this case?" Cohen said, "Yes, probably." Blanche said, "Do you have any doubt?" Cohen said, "No." They've also gone through times that he has really aggressively said he wants Trump to be, thrown in effing jail or whatever. Does that hurt Michael Cohen, or does it really even matter? What do you think?
I think it hurts him some. I mean, they're going to go after any particular opportunity that they have to show that he is either compelled to lie or has an agenda and is just wants to do anything that he can in court to be able to lead towards Donald Trump's conviction. But, Jake, I was here with you when this case the indictment first came out. And I thought it was underwhelming at the time. And as the trial continues, I still am not seeing the prosecutors, at least until this point, get to the part where they really have demonstrated that the former president had the intent to commit the underlying crime.
Which was to influence the election.
To influence the election. And so there's a lot of things about the testimony of Michael Cohen and the personalities and the dynamics and the Trump organization and the loyalty and sort of all these parts that have come out about Michael Cohen. But my big question is, when they finally wrap up with Michael Cohen, what is the defense going to do? Are they going to actually present a defense, or are they going to stand up and say, you know what, the prosecution hasn't met its burden?
What would you do at this point, assuming that there's no other, big blockbusters that we're not expecting, right? Assuming that this is the case, and we pretty much know how the prosecution's case is going to end, Blanche is asking Cohen if he said Trump needs to wear handcuffs and to do the perp walk, people will not be satisfied until he's sitting in his cell. Cohen says, I don't recall saying that, but I don't put it past me. He's just going through the list now, Blanche said, of strong statements that Michael Cohen has said. The one earlier that I was paraphrasing was he said, I truly effing hope Donald Trump ends up in prison. And Cohen said it sounds more like my language on mea culpa as opposed to in a different podcast. But in any case, going through all this stuff, Blanche follows up. Is it fair to say you're motivated by publicity? Cohen responds, I don't know if that's fair to say. I'm motivated by many things.
Well, what does that even mean? I'm motivated by many things.
Well, the same way that Donald Trump was motivated by many things, perhaps.
But
I mean,
Donald
like,
Trump whether you
multitudes,
despise Donald Trump or you want to vote for him, he's the defendant. He's an American citizen on trial. This witness is perfect for Todd Blanche. And all the people, second guessing each and every question, sit down, get your popcorn out, let Mr. Blanche do his job. And the judge will charge this jury, Jake, that if a witness has a bias or skin in the game, you take that testimony with caution. The witness is supposed to say, they robbed the bank, they drove the car, it was blue, and it was raining out. Not, I want him in jail, I got a silly little T-shirt on. This Cohen is reprehensible.
So Cohen is asked if he loves being on TV. He says yes, but more so when he was on TV on Trump's behalf, less now. Blanche confirms with Cohen he did not meet with the Manhattan DA's office between such and such dates. Cohen's manner is still very even, we're told. Would you just rest your case if you were the defense? The prosecution, let's assume they finish their case whenever this cross-examination's over, and there's a redirect, et cetera, and the prosecution says, okay, the prosecution rests. Would you, if you were Todd Blanche, say, well, we rest too. Like they didn't meet their burden.
I think there's a good argument in favor of doing that. I mean, at this point, unless they really think that there's something that comes out from Michael Cohen's testimony, I think at this point there would be a strong argument for the defense to just stand up and say, look, the prosecution hasn't met its burden in this case. Here's all the things that they have to prove. They haven't gotten there, and it's time for everybody to go home. I don't know that they'll do that, but I think there's an argument in favor of that.
It's kind of a baller move when defense attorneys do that, but I wonder, would this client accept that? He likes people fighting for them. You know that better than I do.
I do. And I think he'd like to push and get as many witnesses on as he can. But I think the strategy is probably right. This case hasn't gone in the way I think it was billed to go in. So as the days go on and this case looks weaker and weaker, I think it's probably less that they have to put on for defense. In the beginning of the trial, I thought for sure he was going to testify. He's the kind of guy who wants to testify. He's testified before, and now I'm not sure it would be a smart move. Because, he's got a lot of open books to go into, too.
Yeah, and I have to say, he has seemingly, in the last few days at least, shown that he is listening to his lawyers. He hasn't violated the gag order. When he goes out there, he only attacks the people he's allowed to attack, not the witnesses, not the family of the prosecution, not the jury. He only attacks the judge and the case itself.
Which he's permitted to do.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's abiding by his instructions.
What kind of move was that again? If they don't call any witnesses?
Baller?
It's a baller move.
Like a basketballer, yeah.
I'll tell you what, and I don't want to fall into the trap that I just set up myself, which is don't second-guess this wonderful defense team. But I would like to. We spoke about this a little earlier, and Ellie Honig made a great point. You call an FEC lawyer, you call an elections lawyer, and ask them anything. Well, what about this? If you did this, would that be illegal? It depends.
Depends.
I thought that would be a great move. But who would think, Jake, that 4 weeks into it, prosecution putatively resting now, they're not calling anybody else, that you'd have 3 lawyers on this network saying, we don't say anything here.
It is interesting, although, yes, it is interesting. Blanche asked Cohen whether he thanked the new DA team for continuing their investigation in January 2021 when DA Alvin Bragg had just taken office, replacing Cy Vance Jr. Sounds correct, Cohen says. Blanche then asks Cohen about meeting with someone who worked for the DA at the time, Mark Pomerantz. Hoffinger objects. Attorneys are now at the bench. This is, I think, the attorney trying to muddy the waters or introduce the fact that there's questions about. Mark Pomerantz wrote a book in which he said that the DA, Alvin Bragg, was too chicken to bring this case, and then the DA Bragg did.
Well, Pomerantz was a former federal prosecutor.
Right.
Had a long, distinguished career doing white-collar defense. He was basically retired, and Cy Vance asked him to come back to look at the Trump case, I believe the case that Mike and I did, and also the valuation case. And during that time, he saw the inner workings of the office. This case was kind of poo-pooed, and this case was not supposed to be bought.
I don't think it's going to be that helpful for the defense to go after the prosecutors, though, especially now in the last couple days as the former president has perhaps buttoned up his activity a little bit, because one of the ways that he could harm himself the most is to really push a confrontation with the court and with the judge. So I think it's in the interest of his defense for them not to go after the prosecutors and